Alrighty, guys. Okay, so we're back. This video is pretty much going to be about CoC Nova this time. So we're just going to go over the exact same thing like we did with the Toxic Rain character. What's changing? What am I planning to do in the future? What have I already changed to the build that I may or may not implement into the new POB we're going to work on for this one? Pretty much, biggest thing is I'm pretty sold when it comes to cluster jewels being the way to go. It gives us a bunch of insane damage. We do lose a small amount of life, which we can get back later. And when I min-max it out, I really want that particular side of the tree. So, what are we losing in the upcoming expansion? Pretty much we're just losing Wind Dancer. Now, a lot of people don't know this about Wind Dancer. It was always the best node. A lot of people are big fans of the Corrupted Soul, or Corrupted whatever it is. Basically, Wind Dancer was 20% less damage taken. It was a fantastic defensive bonus. It was really amazing. Gave me Onslaught on kill, which is super good in the long run, right? It also gave us movement speed. So that's what I'm planning on doing in the exact final version. I plan on keeping this on my standard character, but, you know, I'm going to suggest something slightly different for everyone else. So I'm just going to quickly take you over a map, and we're going to go over the nerf to Cyclone and what it actually means for people that are playing this particular build. So the nerf to Cyclone is essentially now we can be stunned. And, you know, whilst it is something to kind of worry about, it's probably going to cause a couple of deaths here and there. This pretty much has nothing to do with this version of the build. Like, pretty much at all, man. So, like, you know, essentially, how would I describe this? That, when all the streamers and stuff like that are talking about Cyclone being dead, I think they're talking about, like, you know, they specifically mentioned the CoC Nova version, because the CoC Nova version they're used to literally has 4k life, has no defenses, gets a Vile Righteous Fire, it's a complete glass cannon. You know, it's got a bottled faith, and basically it doesn't operate outside of that anyway. The funny thing, right, is the fact that I think that those builds there actually operate under the idea of don't worry about getting stunned while you're cycloning, worry about the fact that every single hit's going to kill you anyway. So with this particular build, right, we actually have real defenses, so what we do is we actually just kill the stuff before it kills us, and we have defenses. You pretty much see me do that whole map right there, and we pretty much don't take a hit. That's because we built proper defenses. So not only do we have the Wind Dancer node, we have the Flesh and Stone, we have our dodge base, we have a lot of movement speed, we have a lot of actual defenses. We also have nearly 6k life. Actually, we do have over 6k life, EHP anyway. And we've got the big steel skin, we've got all those layers, right? When we have all that stuff together, we're actually really evasive. Not only do we rarely get hit, we don't get hit for that much. Now, we are losing Wind Dancer, and there is an alternative, which is this Corrupting Soul thing we're talking about. And that's basically going to let you gain your maximum life as energy shield. Now, it's usually used on what I would consider to be the absolute worst version of the build, right? So, what we're going to do here is we're just going to import this build from, you know, PoE Ninja. It's the same place you guys get all your information from. So this guy right here is one of the top dudes, you know, on the DPS list. Super amazing. Wow. How legit, you know. Actually, I'm pretty sure we probably would have been better off going with this guy, but it's fine. I like this, guys. It's life-based. Just to get the point soon. So, you know, this whole thing here is predicated on the idea that, like, damage is all that matters and the build functions properly, and that this is a legitimate build. This is where everyone gets the idea of CoC Nova from. This is probably the worst thing you could possibly do, especially going forward. So, not only are these rings nerfed very heavily and crazy expensive, by the way, the rest of it's also getting nerfed. Okay, so all your bottled faith and all this kind of stuff like that, like, it was already really bad. And now having 4k life is, you know, more or less accessible. Like, it's the worst way to go. It always has been, it always will be. This zero defense thing, this lack of anything besides damage layers, is a no-go. It's gone. It's dead. Dead more than it ever was. Like, it was already pretty dead, but, like, it was pretty hard to convince people to swap out. So, you know, I just want to show you guys what happens. Okay, so he's got 1.4 mil damage. What happens when we start getting rid of things, right? So the enemy's always on consecrated ground. You should know how I feel about this by now, but, like, one, all the videos you've ever seen of that are people saving them for the last minute. Okay? Saving them for the last minute. So that's already, you know, between you and me, total BS, okay? So, always having Flask up, simply not the case. You are not a Flask finder. It's not the way it works. I don't mind people clicking this thing on, but when your damage is heavily invested into the idea that you're doing cast on crit, you can't have inconsistent crit like this. There are times where your Flask are down, especially if you're using them, right? When the Flask are down on this character, it doesn't crit properly. It doesn't function properly. I'm sure anyone who's ever played this has noticed this by now. But not only are you insanely invested in a crit multi, right? So you're weak against map mods. You're also heavily reliant on your Flask. If your Flask aren't up, you lose, okay? It's a little bit worse though, right? So the guy's also predicated on the idea he's got Val Righteous Fire up. We're going to get rid of that. He also always has his Vortex on, giving him an Arcane Surge. You guys ever seen how many, Frost Bolts that consumes? Not true, dude. It's just simply not true. So then comes, what else does the build have? Still has a lot of damage, right? Problem being, has 0 defenses. 0. This is where these builds instantly fall apart and are nowhere near advertised. So not only is this your Nova damage per second, right? That's your fucking Cyclone. That's your Cyclone. So think about this damage, but not 9 Novas per second. Try barely even, 3, 4? So actually half the damage of a regular build. But it gets worse, right? Super weak against map mods. We're just going to quickly put this onto a map mod. Sorry, Ice Nova so you can tell the damage. There goes a chunk of damage. Not the worst thing ever, right? The ailment thing, because you're not cluster jewels, right? You can never guarantee chill. So when that weakness to ailments comes up, ginormous, and I mean ginormous chunk of your damage, you have 86% chance to miss with ailments. Not only do you not proc your Ice Nova frequently, you are so reliant on the chilled mechanic for all your crit, it's not funny. So the second I take that away, you're dead. But it gets worse, right? So say I give you this. There's also a map mod that reduces crit. 40% in high tier that you can read there, right? We just make that 48%. I don't know what the 24 is. I think it actually goes higher. It instantly halves your damage because you're only invested into crit. So what these guys do, right, is they want to be number 1 on the PoE Ninja. The PoE Ninja only recognizes certain amounts of damage. See it again, I don't mean to be mean to this guy, but this build here is one of the most bullshit builds you can ever get. Like absolute bullshit. It's pretty atrocious. I would never play this. I played it before, and I learnt my lesson. You're also super reliant. He doesn't even have this. Wow, as a defensive player, but you're also super reliant on these crazy expensive items. Look at this, just multi, pure damage to get these numbers. And in the event that a single map mod rolls, or 2 map mods, or God forbid 1, right? Your damage goes worse than, no joke, my early game starter at level 84. Despite the fact that you have spent hundreds and hundreds of exalts on gear. And now you're weak against even more stuff. So this is probably the worst way to play the build, guys. Cannot stress this enough that never go to the PoE Ninja for Ice Nova advice. Okay? If you see a build with a bottled faith on an assassin character, assassin is the god of crit. If he can't get crit cap without this Flask, you have the wrong build. Okay? You have the wrong build. I would delete it off 90% of characters. It's not a good Flask. There's a very unique and specific time where you would use this Flask, and it ain't this character. It ain't ever going to be an assassin. It's even worse when you see it on ranged characters, just so you know. And we've seen that a fair few times. Anyway, I'm going to try and not be so negative about this, and I'm going to go over what is, an actual real version of the build. So, L1. As you guys know, we've got a bunch of dodge cap. We got a bunch of, everything. We actually have a bunch of everything. We have real defenses, real defensive layers. We've now lost Wind Dancer. What could you replace it with? Sadly, it's this Corrupted Soul thing, right? This gives you an ES layer. I don't actually recommend that people get this, personally, but in the event that, you're slightly rich or anything along those lines, you can actually buy this. And it's going to give you an ES layer that's, pretty reasonable, about an extra 1,000 ES. So it's not quite, mitigating 20% of damage, but it does give you something. The problem is it needs to be paired with a Watcher's Eye that gives you ES back on hit, basically. And that's going to help with sustain. It's really bad on single target. It's fantastic for mapping. But it's also a waste of a gem slot. So I'm just going to show you guys what you're actually missing out here with when you use this gem. Because, a lot of the people with their shit 4K life builds that can barely utilize this anyway, really like to push this gem on people. I got, mauled out a million times about using it. Here's the difference between a Glorious Vanity that gives you a shit amount of defenses, but you need to pair it with a Watcher's Eye to truly sort of get the benefit out of it, or just putting in a Life Multi-Duel. You see that damage jump? Just so you know. That big damage jump, that's from Life Multi. It's a pretty big deal. These are only little 3 props, you know what I mean? I would use it if you've got the money and you want the defenses, okay? So, Up to you guys what you want to do there. It's entirely up to you. So, I'm at the point of exposing POB warriors. And I actually want to show you a couple of cool tricks that you can do as well, right? So, like, one, I could add a Righteous Fire on any one of my builds. We just go in here. I'm just going to add, a Val Righteous Fire. You see what happens to my damage. Bam! Look, goes up a whole bunch, right? I can click on a whole bunch of other shit. My crit actually works, by the way. So, for reference, is the enemy hexproof? Yes. Oh, a crit didn't die. Okay, sweet. We do have shock. We get that from our cluster jewels. We do have chilled. It's guaranteed, even in those map mods, because of the cluster jewels, okay? If an enemy is near, it is chilled. The enemy can be chilled, it can be shocked. That's where we get it from. So, yeah. If we can curse the enemy, they are unnerved. This is pretty much only important on bosses, but, let's go into bosses a little bit. You'll notice we have this thing up here. Where is it? 25% more damage when there is at most one more rare or unique enemy nearby. That's bosses, just so you know. So when I do Cyrus the Awakener and you see my POB, just remember at any point, I could have just put this bad boy down. Oh yeah, look at the ginormous jump to my damage whenever I'm doing Cyrus. So not only is my build oh yeah, check this out too, guys, right? Take away my Flask. Still crit capped. No Flask, still that damage. What about if I really, really hurt your crit chance, man? Let's go with the 48 again, right? Still, a crazy amount of damage. What about hexproof? Still, double the damage of that other guy. God forbid, right? We go put the Val Righteous Fire on and all that sort of stuff as well, right? We'll put the Val Righteous Fire on again. So, why do I advocate for my build over others? Most likely because it's not bullshit. It's not weak against every single map mod out there. The more that nerfs come out, the more I realize how much, better this build is. Now, for reference, we can go even further with this. So I do indeed have a bunch of upgrades. So this is just this is my old gear, okay? So that's my old gear, my old Assassin's Mark stuff, my old way of building it. We got no, what do you want to call it? We got no tailwinds. We don't have, the crazy stuff that we have selected on the scene. But we can start doing that, right? So I have Tailwind in my build now, permanently, okay? I also happen to have Onslaught's only while I'm mapping, right? So we have our Nerfed for our damage and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, hopefully got the Val Righteous Fire still off. Okay, so I hate the POB Warrior stuff, but we're going to leave it on just to give you guys an indicator of, what I could do with the real gear. And I'm going to quickly swap this, right, to the min-maxed version. So I'm going to update this, So by the way, in the min-maxed version, I am still using this jewel. I really like it. I think it's the way to go. I'm going to quickly just pop over to my min-maxed gear. Ooh, I've done something wrong here. I turned off something important. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, hold on a second. I'm not going to tell you exactly how I do it, but we do get consecrated ground. We are not using a bottled faith, okay? Not really super important, but yeah. So we've got 1.1 mil crit up all the time. We have a lot of stuff. Oh, by the way, we don't have Flask on. No, we do have Flask on. It's all good. Actually, it doesn't even have my Abyss Jewel on for some reason. Is that my min-maxed one? I don't know why that's happened. Just want to make sure I'm triple balanced. Okay, we're good. So yeah, in the final version of the build, I have an insane amount of everything. Okay? Insane amount. That's 1.1 mil per Nova. We still have 9 Novas per second. We have Tailwind. We have crazy attack and movement speed, as you can see how I'm doing it through the video. It's really, really strong, guys. Will it survive the patch notes? Yes. 100%. My version takes virtually no hits. As a matter of fact, my version only becomes, I don't want to sound too arrogant when I say this, but probably the best version. You know what I mean? It pretty much already was that for anyone that's actually played it, but, no more bullshit rings, no more bullshit scenarioism where it's like, oh, if the map's hexproof and, you don't have Flask up and all this sort of stuff, what happens to your crit chance? My crit chance is overcapped significantly for all scenarios. So if the map's hexproof, if I don't have Flask up, I still crit. One of the biggest things I want people to take away from this whole entire thing is, it is cast on crit. Okay, guys? Cast on crit. Not cast on maybe, not cast on Flask, nothing like that. Cast on crit. If you do not crit on an assassin with this build, your build sucks. If you are super reliant on just crit multi and bullshit overpriced gems, your build sucks. Okay, I know that the price of the jewels went up. That's because they're good. just for reference, right? But we're not reliant on them. This build still works without them, okay? But I just really wanted to make this video to let people know sort of what's going on with the min-max version and stuff like that. I'll be re-releasing the POB. You guys can play around with yourself. Pretty much the only thing we're losing Wind Dancer. You could swap to the other, the Corrupted Soul if you really, really want. I would say for now we're just going to take the hit. We're going to stay clusters in the end because clusters is amazing. I recommend people, really try and push their gear. We can go even further than this. Like I said, the actual cap, from what I've been able to work out, and gear I have, and in the process of making, by the way, is about 1.2 mil per Nova, and we're going to have 9 of those popping off minimum, not including anything else, right? Along with our Cyclone damage. It's nutty, man. Cyclone, CoC Nova can actually be min-maxed so far. And this stuff's actually guaranteed, by the way. I have this regardless of map mods. So, pretty good, guys. I think you guys should all, really consider CoC Nova as a league starter. It's, we've got the progression video now. How you build it up the same. How you finish it off in this particular crafting league is up to you. But I tell you what, man, with access to really good crafting methods, you've got so much to play with at your fingertips, it's not funny. You could really actually finish off this build, this league, in the way I have. So, anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, follow me over on Twitch. I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. Peace out, homies.